Okay, I think we're about ready to get started. Apologies for, we had some technical difficulties, so we're taking a minute to get going. So, but I think we're ready to go. And my name is Michael Drake. I'm an assistant state engineer in the state engineer's office, which is also known as the Utah Division of Water Rights. And I'll be talking to you tonight. I know our notices typically cause a lot of concern when we send them out, and I understand that, and I apologize for that. We are operating under some mandate from our legislature to adjudicate this area and several other areas. Fortunately, this is the last one in the Heber Valley, and so we're just about there. We're just about done. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of overlap in the 4 different books that we have been working on in the Heber Valley, but we're just about there. We're starting the final race here. So I want to talk today about. Let's see. Oh, and that's not working. Why isn't that working? It's because I need to turn it on. Okay. This is an agenda of some of the things we'll go over today. I did want to first take a minute just to give you notice of a few of the people that are also in the room today to help. We bring a lot of staff members to these because we know that a lot of people have questions. And so you've probably, or you may have already met a few of them. Some of the people that we have with us is Nick, who is at the back there outside. And then also Gordon, who's one of the attorneys in the Attorney General's office that works on water right adjudications. But also here we have Aspen, Kirsten, Jordan, Amy, and then Frank is here running our AV equipment today. So we have a lot of people that can answer questions. And so the format of this is I'm going to try and move through the formal presentation pretty quickly. This is being recorded and live streamed onto YouTube. The recording will be available on YouTube afterwards, and I'll show you how to access that later on. And it will also be accessible on our website. So let's just get right into it, and then, like I say, we'll go quickly through this and hopefully answer a lot of your questions. What I can't answer in the presentation, we're available to help. All right, so what is a general stream adjudication? In its broadest sense, it's just an action in district court. However, this is kind of a special type of court case. And the state law establishes that the judicial branch has the authority to determine water rights. But it incorporates this important role for the state engineer's office, and so that is what adjudication is. A general stream adjudication binds all water users and the state engineer into this court case. And the purpose of this is to define and settle all the water rights in a defined geographical area. The area that we're talking about tonight is the Jordanelle Subdivision. Previously in the Heber Valley, we've done what we call the Lake Creek Subdivision, the Daniels Creek Subdivision, and the Midway Subdivision. Prior to these subdivisions, we were working our way down the Provo River and up through on the east side of Salt Lake Valley. That east side of Salt Lake Valley is currently reaching the finish line, and we're publishing proposed determinations. We'll talk about what that is a little bit later. The general adjudication is governed by Title 73, Chapter 74, and every area, every corner of the state of Utah is currently under a general stream adjudication. You can see that on the map. This is all part of the Utah Lake Jordan River adjudication. The very earliest adjudications began back in the 1920s, and they've been running since then. The Sevier, the Weber, and the Virgin River Decree all started back then. But let's keep going. Let's cover some of the basics of water rights. What is a water right? A water right is the right to divert and use water. So in the state of Utah, water, we live in a very scarce state, and so water is the property of the state of Utah. And by the state of Utah, it's all of us together, right? And to make sure that that water is used in the best form or purpose possible, we have this system of water rights. Water rights are defined by a few different principles and features, and you can see them up on the screen. The nature of beneficial use, a priority date, the quantity of water, the point of diversion, which is where the water is taken from. Those are all things that define what a water right is. What is not a water right, and more particularly, what's not a water right when it comes to an adjudication? And I like to lead out with this because particularly in the Heber Valley, a lot of people own or use water through shares. So a water right, at least as far as the adjudication is concerned, is not a share in an irrigation company. Rather, the adjudication will work with the irrigation companies. And so this whole adjudication process that we're going to talk about does not extend down to individual shareholders. Now, that being said, shareholders are not required to participate in the adjudication, but there's no reason that they can't if they want to. If they want to just make sure that their water right is fully, completely protected. But I'll tell you, we are working with the irrigation companies, and they are participating in the adjudication. This is the fourth in the Heber Valley. Many of them we've already received claims on. If you all, so maybe let me put that one to bed finally. If you're a shareholder, then for the most part, you don't need to participate in the adjudication. Your water comes through the irrigation companies. The irrigation companies are going to participate. Also, if you get your water through one of the municipalities, one of the water companies in the valley, that municipality or water company will participate in the adjudication on your behalf, and we're coordinating with them. And so that's another class of water user that doesn't need to participate in the adjudication. Let's keep going here. Why do we conduct general stream adjudications? I already referenced a common theme of general adjudications. It joins and binds all water users. An important aspect of this is what we call pre-statutory water rights. This takes a little bit of explanation to understand. As many of you know, statehood for the state of Utah didn't come until 1896. However, settlement of the Salt Lake Valley and the surrounding areas began in 1847, almost 50 years prior to statehood. There was a lot of water that was put to use prior to statehood. However, this water wasn't necessarily well defined. An important part of our state constitution was what you see here, and that is Article 17 of the Constitution, which recognized all existing uses of water throughout the state. However, it did not define them. It was always contemplated that adjudication would be the way that these pre-statutory water rights would come into play. So two key dates that you see there, 1903 for surface water and 1935 for underground water. So if a use of water from the surface was in place prior to 1903, we would consider that pre-statutory. And those are water rights that may or may not be on the records of the state engineer. The adjudication brings those onto the records. 1935 is the date for underground water. It wasn't initially, the statutes weren't initially applied towards underground water. That was changed in 1935. So a use of underground water prior to 1935 is pre-statutory and may not be on the records of the state engineer. Why is that important? Well, it's important for the state of Utah to manage this resource that we have. As you know, we're in the depths of a deep drought, and to be able to manage our resources, we need to know exactly who is using water. And so the adjudication is the tool that brings all of these water rights onto the records of the state engineer. Another aspect, not quite so important up here, there's not as many reserve rights, but is to bring on federal reserve rights onto the records. So this is defined by two events. In 1908, there was a court case that resulted in the Winters Doctrine. And what it says is when the federal government reserves land from the public domain, it also reserves sufficient water for the purposes of that reservation. This is typically seen in one of a few different types of federal reservations, like American Indian reservations, national parks, national forests and other sorts of reservations. The only one that I'm aware of in this area are national forests that surround the Heber Valley. We're expecting those are going to be some fairly minor reserve rights. So that's established in federal law that there are these reserve rights. However, the U.S. government typically can't be sued, and the way that water rights are brought into the adjudication is through this lawsuit. In 1952, the McCarran Amendment made it so that the federal government could waive their sovereign immunity and participate in these state-based water right adjudications. So that has been done in the Utah Lake Jordan River adjudication. The federal government has waived its sovereign immunity, and they are participating in this adjudication. So we expect to bring those reserve rights into the water right picture, little as they may be. There are other benefits to the water right adjudication. You can see here is they tend to condense disputes into a single lawsuit, and we resolve the disputes in that one place. They also, part of what we do in a adjudication is we evaluate water rights that are no longer in use. This is important because the water right records get contaminated, get cluttered with time. There are water rights that were filed for 50, 60 years ago, and no one's updated title, no one knows about it, no one's using it. We take those water rights off the records. And what that does is make it so that all of us who have water rights can be assured that that water will be available for them. And then finally, at the end of the adjudication process, we get a final comprehensive decree on all of the water rights. And so what we get from that is an overall clear and clean picture of water use in the geographical area. Okay, so let's talk about this area that we are adjudicating right now. This is a map of the boundary of the Jordanelle Subdivision. You can see it generally kind of aligns with the mountaintops surrounding Jordanelle Reservoir. Maybe two key points to point out are on the south, there's a boundary there, and we bump up against areas that we have already initiated. So these are adjudications that we've already started. And that line that you see there is Burgee Lane. I think that's how you say it, right? Did I say it right? Someone? Burgee Lane? Burgee, sorry. Burgee Lane. And then on the east side, going up following the Provo River, that line that you see there, it's kind of a curvy line, but that approximately follows the Wasatch Summit County line. The next area, the Francis Woodland area, is the next area, but we have not yet commenced that. That will be coming later on this year. So very notable, this does not include that Francis area this time. So let's keep going. This is the adjudication process as detailed in Title 73, Chapter 4. And we'll review this generally at first, and then we're going to break the process into smaller pieces for a more detailed discussion. The three phases are defined. There's three phases, and they're each defined by the colors that you see. And the first phase starts with a petition and then moves along with the notice of commencement, which has already happened in this Jordanelle subdivision, and the summons. The summons is the piece that got you all here today, right? And that is then followed by a public meeting. That's the public meeting we're holding right now. This phase ends with the notice to file claims, which will come. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute. With this notice to file claims, which will follow this meeting, all claimants who use water are going to be required to prepare what's called a water user claim. Failure to respond to this notice to file claims may result in the claimant never being able to assert a claim or assert this water right in the future. So it's very, very important when this notice comes to respond. The next phase encompasses what's called a list of unclaimed rights. And then that's followed by the final summons and then a decree on the list of unclaimed rights. So after receiving all of the water user claims in an area, a list is prepared for rights for which no water user claim was received. And this list is published with the intention that these rights are abandoned by the court. Okay, final phase is the longest, and this involves the investigation of each and every water right throughout this geographical area. The state engineer then develops what's called a proposed determination of all these water rights, and this is filed with the court. Opportunity is given to object if desired, and then we start resolving all these objections. Once that has happened, the court renders a final decree on the proposed determination, and the decree is kind of the finish line that I've talked about, and this represents the end of the adjudication process. So, I know I went through that very quickly. We're going to dive into each of these phases individually and talk more about them. So this is the first phase. Okay, so as you can see, this starts with that petition that I've already referenced. This is typically not relevant today. If you remember that slide where I showed the entire state of Utah, every corner of the state of Utah is currently under an active adjudication. And so that petition was done many, many years ago, many decades ago, in fact. Okay, so we split those larger adjudications into smaller bite-sized pieces. That bite-sized piece in this case is the Jordanelle Subdivision that we've already talked about. Okay, following that is a part that's already happened, and that's the notice to file claims. And that is published in the local paper for 2 consecutive weeks. That simultaneously we have the summons that's also published in the paper for 5 weeks, but we also, and this is the part that gets a lot of people worried, and I understand that, is we send this by mail to all potential claimants. Potential claimants means, in this case, and this is how it's been defined in our adjudication process, is to all property owners of record within that geographical area and all known water right owners. Within that area, okay? So I imagine that's how we captured each of you today. Okay, we hold our public meeting like we are today. We do this so that we can answer questions. We know that this process, you know, there's nothing like getting a summons in the mail, right? I know, I live in Sandy. A few years ago, I got the same thing, and all of my neighbors were asking me. They knew I worked for the Division of Water Rights, and they were asking me the exact same questions, and they had the exact same concerns that all of you do too. I get my water from Sandy City, and so there was no need for me to participate. So guess where my summons went? Into the trash, all right? And all subsequent paperwork did the same thing, went into the trash, because I get my water from Sandy, I don't need to worry about it. Sandy City filed the water user claim on my behalf. Okay, the next very important part that's coming is the notice to file claims. We have scheduled that for May 12th. Okay, so that is when that will go into the mail, and that will also be accompanied by a notice in the paper for 2 weeks. What that does, it starts a 90-day period in which you need to file a water user claim if you have a water right that is subject to this adjudication. So remember a few slides back to those type of water rights that we're adjudicating. Okay, so these are going to be not shares, right? So the irrigation companies are going to file water user claims. If you have an actual water right, so you know your water right number, or you have a diversion from the Provo River, or you have a well that's a standalone water right, not dependent on a share, you might need to participate in this adjudication. Okay? I know you still may have questions on that. That's why we have a lot of people here to answer questions. Okay, so if there's any question as to whether you fall into that category, let's talk. We'll try and answer your questions. Okay, and then we're available for questions even in the following weeks, and we'll give you ways that you can contact us. Okay, failure to file a claim is a pretty drastic thing. If you have a water right, you need to file a water user claim at this time. If you don't, you may be prevented from asserting a claim in the future. Okay, so let's move on to what is going to happen at this notice to file claims, because this is a water user claim. You can see a couple examples here. I know they're a little hard to see. If you were to look at this more closely, you would see, and if you're familiar, there was one part I missed here, because I did want to talk about this, because I forgot one important component. 90-day claim filing period. There is an opportunity to ask for a 30-day extension, okay? if you want to do that, if you know, for whatever reason you just can't get things together to file your water user claim, you email me and I'll give you the information, the way to contact me, and ask for a 30-day extension, and statute lets me give a 30-day extension. So that extends that out to 120 days that we can do. So if that's a concern, email me. We can give a 30-day extension on that. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. So I apologize for going backwards. Okay, list of unclaimed rights. So we'll take all those claims at the end of the claim filing period. We'll review them. We're going to coordinate them with all the existing water rights, and where we find a water right, a known water right that we have not received a claim on, we will put that onto a list and file that with the court. Okay, and then we will send notice of this list. This list is called the list of unclaimed rights. This is where we clean the slate of all of the water rights that no one seems to be interested in. All right, and so we'll hold another public meeting at this point, and then we will. There's a period where you can object to. If you find your water right is on that list of unclaimed rights, you can object and get that off of the list of unclaimed rights. Okay, and so there is opportunity throughout this process to correct it. If you miss the claim filing period, you can object and you can get your right off the list of unclaimed rights. Once we've gotten all those water rights off that need to get off, then we will do a final summons, we'll do a final search for claimants, and ask the court to abandon each of those water rights, all right, in what's called the list of unclaimed rights decree. Okay, some of this is in the future a little bit. I saw one question.
If you fill out a claim for the water rights and send it in, are you going to tell us, send back a notice saying, oh, we got your claim, you're okay, do nothing else?
There isn't, but I'll show you how you can track the progress. We have a way online to do that. Okay, but if this is one reason to watch, and when the list of unclaimed rights comes out, look through there and make sure your water right's not listed there. But I'll show you how to track it, because we'll cover that towards the end in the website tour. That we have ways for you to track the progress of the adjudication throughout the entire process. Okay, all right. Let me get a drink real quick. Okay. Phase 3 is the longest phase. This is the claim evaluation period. Through this period, our staff members go do a file review, figure out what the water right's being used for before we go out. Then we'll come out and we'll do a field review to verify uses. We prepare a map. We prepare what's called a state engineer's recommendation. And maybe speaking to your question, this is a point where we will begin to coordinate with you, communicate with each and every water user, first off to set up the field review, and then following that field review, you'll get a response from us detailing our recommendation, what our recommendation will be. Okay? That is called a state engineer's recommendation. We abbreviate it because we're government. We have nice acronyms for everything. It's an SER. Okay, but state engineer's recommendation. It's accompanied by a memo that details our field review. This is the time when you get this to, if there's something you don't agree with, talk with us. We work on these and we frequently fix things and supersede prior state engineer's recommendations. Our intention is to get things right. And so we're going to communicate with you throughout this process. If there's something that we get wrong, let us know and we can fix it, okay? Once we've evaluated all of the water rights, we formulate and put this into what's called a proposed determination, and we file this with the court. Again, there's a 90-day period to object if you don't like the recommendation that we've put in there, or if we just messed up, and it happens. We will hold another public meeting. This is the final public meeting in the process. Okay? Following this 90-day period to object, we're going to look at all those objections and we will begin to resolve them. All right? Ultimately, where we're trying to get is to do a final decree on that proposed determination. And there was a little change in statute, actually spearheaded by Representative Kohler, who is a representative up here, that lets us seek a decree on all uncontested water rights. And so that's something that we will begin to use in our adjudication process. And so we think that was a very good change in statute that Representative Kohler pursued. But ultimately, we're trying to get us to that final decree where all of the water rights have been reviewed, evaluated. We've resolved the objections as necessary, and we get this final decree in this area. Okay, so anticipated timeline. Okay, and I can't read this, so I'm going to have to turn and look at this a little bit. So you can see here that we have our notice to file claims date. That's May 12th is what we're planning on. That's when, shortly thereafter, you're going to get the notice in the mail. We're also going to publish the notice in the newspaper. All right, and then if you run out those 90 days, that takes us to August 10th for the end of the 90-day period. If you request an extension, you will have an additional 30 days beyond that. All right. Some of the other dates you see up there are a little, they're planning dates. So we anticipate that we'll be able to move through this and get a list of unclaimed rights out by sometime early next year, and then we'll begin to evaluate all these water rights. And you can see the 90-day objection period for the list of unclaimed rights, and we're expecting that the proposed determination could be published sometime around September 2024. We have a lot of subdivisions open right now. We're currently publishing proposed determinations up in, let's see, the last one we did was up in Sandy Midville. It was called the Sandy Midville Subdivision. So we got to work our way down through the east side of Salt Lake, down through Utah County, up Provo Canyon, and up into here. But we're publishing at a very, very fast rate, so that's kind of where I project that we'll be. I saw a question, yes?
Today's meeting does not really pertain to us. Will you be holding another meeting like this one for the Francis Woodland area in June, July, whatever it might be?
Yes, all right, so great question. So the question was asking about the timing of the Francis Woodland subdivision. So we are in the preliminary stages of preparing that subdivision. I don't have a precise date, but it will be sometime this year. I'd say sometime in the next 6 months or so.
I just didn't know whether you're going to be sticking these same dates with Jordanelle, with Campus Woodland.
No, yeah, it will have its own dates. Very good question. And so we'll talk about that. And to answer the other part of your question, we will hold another public meeting for that subdivision. We hold these public meetings for each and every subdivision. Clearly, there's people up there who did not receive the summons, did not receive any of our paperwork, and so they don't know about this. We'll do all of that then. Another question.
Yeah, so from my understanding, what you're doing here is you're identifying something everyone's rights. And then once the rights aren't there, come back and do it or whatever. How often do you have to do this? I mean, is it once in a lifetime, is it years?
All right, so the question was, how often are we going to be doing these adjudications? This is a one-time thing. This is a one-time thing. Yeah. So the reason we need to do this is to capture those pre-statutory water rights. All those water rights that existed prior to statehood. And so we're going to come through, do that. At that point, we have our snapshot. We know what's happening with water rights in that area. And so we're not going to have to come in and do that again. So very good question. Yeah. All right. Common issues here. And like I said, this is the fourth one we've done, and so we're kind of getting to know the Heber Valley. One of the major things that we struggle with up here is out-of-date title. All right, a lot of times, excuse me real quick. A lot of times water rights are transferred and jointly with the land, and that doesn't necessarily or always come in and update title with the water rights, okay? The Office of Record for water right title are the individual county recorder's offices, okay? And so there are some mechanisms that automatically update water rights, but not all of them do. And so we run into this all the time where the owner of the water right is someone that is maybe passed away many, many years ago. So it's very important to understand that filing a water user claim does not update title. That could be the reason when you get your notice to file claims, it could come with a partially completed water user claim in a prior owner's name, okay? And so what that means is you may need to do separate title update work to get the water right into the current name. And so if that's an issue with you, please talk with us. We can help you through that process. You'll have to prepare what's called a report of conveyance. Again, we're the government, we like acronyms. That's abbreviated as a ROC, R-O-C. Okay, that's how you'll hear about it talked about a lot. So a report of conveyance is what you'll need to file if you need to update title. Okay, so don't be surprised if that happens on your water user claim. All right, another very unfortunate thing that happens up here is there are many lapsed change applications or lapsed applications to appropriate. So someone many years ago filed an application with our office to drill a well or to divert water from a spring or something. And what usually happens is you need to submit proof at some point. Sometimes people forget about that and they don't submit proof. And what happens if you don't submit proof is the application lapses. And so that may have invalidated the water right. However, there are ways to reinstate small amounts of water, and that's most of what these lapsed applications are. Okay, so if you run into a situation where your water right, and you look it up on our website, and you see that your water right is lapsed, talk to us. We can help you through that process in many cases, okay? If it's a small amount of water, which is the type of water right that is used for someone that just wants to go build a house and drill a well and have a little bit of irrigation, maybe a little bit of stock watering. Okay, so now that has to happen in this claim filing period. Statute prohibits you from doing that after this 90-day period to file a claim. Okay, so again, if you run across that, let us know. We can help you through that process. Another common issue, and we've already talked a lot about this, I know, is irrigation shares versus share statements. And I forget what I wrote down here. We've addressed this many times. So if your right is based on ownership of shares in a local irrigation company, you typically don't need to file a water user claim. The irrigation company will file it on your behalf. However, shareholders may file a water user claim if desired. So if there's any doubt in your mind, go ahead and file a water user claim, but we can also help you determine whether you really need to file a claim, okay? So we'll help you through that. Okay, I've already gotten this question today. Let's go ahead. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I can't hear. I'm gonna get in the way here. What was that? Sorry.
I hold water in an irrigation company and they're filing for us. Is your name shown out in the company?
No. All right, so the question is, if you're a shareholder and the irrigation company is filing a water user claim, is your name specifically you as a shareholder? Are you listed on that? No, you're not. But you are listed presumably on the rolls of the irrigation company as a shareholder. And so I'll tell you, the concern that the irrigation company might not file, I'll try and put that to bed. That's not really, they know about these adjudications. They have attorneys that are engaged with us already, and they're filing water user claims. And so they know what's going on. And so they'll make sure that they have a water user claim in on your behalf if you're a shareholder. Okay. All right. So, like I say, I've already gotten some concerns about this, and this is something we look at. So, will I lose my water right? So, when we go into the area, this is one of the most prominent questions we get, and it's important to know that the state engineer by herself does not have the authority to take a water right away. In this adjudication process, we make a recommendation. And then we recommend that to the court, and then the court is where the authority of forfeiture really resides. And so your due process rights, even if you haven't been using your water right, and your water right presumably might be subject to forfeiture, you have your due process rights through the district court. All right, but so let's see. When individuals using water without a water right of record are required to submit a claim during the adjudication, or they do risk being barred. If a water right has fallen out of use for 7 years, that's what the statute reads. If you haven't used your water right for 7 consecutive years, then your water right could be subject to forfeiture. So this is one of the things we look at. However, I've already had one concern raised. Hey, we're in the middle of a drought. Well, guess what? There's a lot of protections. There's protections in statute that define when non-use does not apply, when forfeiture does not apply, and unavailability of water is one of those. If you would have diverted, if the water had been there, then your water right might be protected from forfeiture. Okay, so I guess I'm trying to say yes, forfeiture is one of the things that we look at as we're going through these areas. However, if you're using your water right to the extent of what your water right says you're authorized to use, there's absolutely nothing to be worried about. Yes, sir.
But what if the water is not there because of this drought?
So that is one of the protections from non-use. Is unavailability of water. If you would have diverted it, if the water had been there, then if your water right says that is what it is there for, then it is protected from forfeiture, and that's detailed in, if you're interested in Utah Statute 73-1-4, and that details all of those protections.
So how do you prove that as a water right holder? You're coming in and finding on everything you're asking me to file. But you're questioning, how do I have the ability to prove that water's not been there for 7, 8, 9 years?
Yeah. Good question. And this is the kind of the challenging aspect of water rights. It can be difficult. What typically happens in a case like that is there are other water rights that are used jointly or supplementally with those. And so maybe one water right hasn't been exercised, but another related water right has been exercised. And so we can look at those and construct a picture of what has been happening in the area. So I'm not going to be able to answer your question in depth because it depends very highly on the details of a specific situation. But that's something that we're going to be looking at through this entire process. Okay. All right, let's see. So we're reaching the end here. This is, 1 second here. So this is how you can contact us. A lot of different ways to contact us. I'll have this up right now and you can get it. You can also see there's an email address there. And that email address, that waterrights_adjudication at utah.gov, comes directly to my phone. That gets forwarded to my phone, and so that's a way to contact me directly. You can also see there's contact information for some of our other staff members as well. And I'll go ahead and take your question right now.
So you talked about not use for a number of years, 7 years, what happens if you file for extensions?
All right, so I think you're asking about non-use applications.
Extensions on non-use protect you from losing.
Okay, so that is, I think, it sounds like you've got a little bit of exposure to this. So there is an application you can file with our office called a non-use application, and what it does is protects you for a period from assertions of non-use. Now that only goes from the period from whenever you make the application forward, right? So if you already have a water right that hasn't been used, filing a non-use application isn't going to do you anything, because we're going to come in and we're going to look for it, and we're going to see the non-use application, but it was filed in 2022, and if for the last 10 years you haven't been using the water right, that water right still might be subject to forfeiture. But that is something that you can, it's a water right management tool that you can use in our office, is file a non-use application for non-use that you plan on, if you just aren't. I think it was originally intended for people that were serving in the military or were serving missions for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was a way for them to cover periods when they just weren't going to be around to use the water. But it's still in place. You can still do that. Another question here. Yes?
I know you mentioned Francis and Woodland are another part of this, but South Campus Irrigation Company got a representative summons, and that's part of the service area for South Campus.
Okay.
So how I'm a little confused, I
Yeah.
participated in that.
Yeah.
You got a summons.
Okay, and so the question was, it sounds like we have a South Camas Irrigation Company. Presumably what brought you into this is you have a point of diversion that's within that boundary somewhere. And so you do need to participate at this time. You will also get notices, I'm guessing, in the Francis Woodland subdivision that when we initiate that, you'll get notices on that as well. You won't have to refile over and over and over again. So filing right now will take care of your responsibility to file a claim for the future.
Because the Washington Irrigation Company in South Campus, our area is the same. So South Campus got the summons, and those Washington.
Okay. And so the way we define these boundaries is where your point of diversion is. And so we can look at it, talk with one of our staff members, we can show you how you got roped into this adjudication. But what I'm presuming is one of your points of diversion for one of your water rights is within the Jordanelle subdivision that we saw just a minute ago. Okay? But grab one of our people, we can look at it in detail. All right. Okay, so this is the point. We're going to break now, and I think we'll go ahead and keep the live stream going, but it'll take us a couple minutes here. What I'm going to do next is give a little bit of a website tour. If you're bored to death at this point, or if you just want to get straight on to the questions, this is the point where outside here we have maps. Some of our staff members are going to be available to take questions, okay? And so we'll go ahead and break that. This is the remaining of this presentation will be a little bit less formal, and I'll just kind of walk you through how to interface with our database, okay? So maybe we'll take a little 1-minute break, and you can decide if you want to stay in here or you want to go out there and get questions answered, okay? Yeah. What's that?
POD's layers. give me just a second. I'm having some issues with this. Okay. Do you need some help? All right, I'm ready.
Okay. All right, so website tour. All right, this is our website, waterrights.utah.gov, and that should be somewhere on the notices that you've gotten, okay? So hopefully you can find that. If you can't, you can also just find it by Googling Utah water rights, and I think we're the top result. So you should be able to find your way there. All right, there's some very cool information here. You can search your water right by clicking on this button right here. Yep, okay. Just making sure you could see my cursor. So you can search here, and you can search by water right number if you know your water right number. Not everyone knows their water right number, and I understand that. So let me show you another way to interface with our database. Yeah. So I'll show you a way that you can find this, and that's with a map search. Now I'm told we have an issue, like our server is down in some way where post determinations aren't showing. We're going to zoom in. I'm going to have some faith here, and there they are. They are great. Okay. Okay. So as you zoom into an area, you'll see that a bunch of these little icons pop up. These are all water rights. The red ones indicate that it's an underground water right. The blue ones indicate that it is a surface water right. Okay, so let's just click on one of these. Well, first off, before I go anywhere, you can see there's a whole bunch of layers over here. I'm hearing some people are having a hard time hearing. If you're having a conversation, maybe take that outside. Thank you. A bunch of layers here.
Sorry, I'm not getting water rights when I bring it up over here. I'm not sure why. Is there a checkbox I'm missing?
You want me to come look? Hang on, everyone, just 1 minute.
Okay, well, I can put it in later. Oh, they just showed up. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, sorry for that. I think and this has nothing to do with being here and what's going on here, something in our main database is kind of slow and causing trouble. All right, so you can look at any water right here. Oh, let's see, I was showing there's a bunch of these layers right here. If I zoom out a little bit, adjudication books is now on. You can see these purple boundaries. And we are talking about this Jordanelle Subdivision tonight. Oh, sorry, it's a little hard with the touchpad. All right, so this is the area that we're adjudicating, that we're talking about tonight. If I zoom in to one of these areas, you can see the water rights pop in, and I'm going to click on one of these and show you that you can this is how you can interface with the database. So presumably, maybe you don't know your water right, but you know you can find your property on a map, and so you zoom into that and you can see if there's a water right there. This shows all of the point of diversions. You can also click on this link here, and it will take you to our database. This includes all of the information about this water right. This is the same way that you can access back, if you go back to our home page, and you can search by water right number. Now, if we know that water right number, 55-8243, and you can get to the same page that way, okay? All right, there's some important things you can see here. Yes? Very good. Right, let me reverse course a little bit here. The way I got to that map, that's okay. This is waterrights.utah.gov. There's this link right here, map search. And I love this. This is the primary way that I interface with the database, is through the maps. Okay, so we're on a water right database page. Okay, some important things you can see here. You can see the owners. You can see some more information about the water right. Here's the quantity of water. You can see that this is an application to appropriate. Okay, you can see the priority date. You can see the point of diversion. You can see this one is a well. And you can see what this water right is authorized to be used for: 1/4 acre of irrigation and 1 house. Okay? Other things you can do with this. Over here on the Scan Documents tab. What this is we have scanned each and every document in our file room. And if you visited us and saw our file room, you would know how big of a deal this is. It's a massive file room. We recently had to renovate it and put some of those roller files, if you've ever seen them. If you're not careful, you can get squished between over 100 years worth of paper there. So you can find each and every paper scanned for every water right, and so this is an exact duplication of the paper file that sits in Salt Lake. Okay, so this is true for each and every water right. Clearly, some water rights have more documentation than others. Sometimes you open this up and there's only 3 or 4 entries. That's just because that's how big that water right file is. Sometimes you can see one like this, which is fairly long. This is fairly long. Sometimes it can take you a long time to scan to the bottom, because sometimes these files are multiple reams of paper. All right, I think that covers everything I wanted to show there. I'm now going to go back to the main web page. One important note anywhere on our website is you can click this banner up at the top and it takes you back to the home page, okay? And that's true pretty much anywhere on our website. Okay, a good way to interface with the, excuse me, I wouldn't believe how dry your throat gets in these presentations. Okay. Good way to interface with the adjudication is you can see on the front page here, you can click on adjudication and then click on active adjudications. All right, and honestly, I actually may need to log out to show this to you correctly. Well, I'll point out that this is going to look a little bit different. All right, so active adjudications, and I always like to just quickly type that in, because there's a number of these that we're working on. So here's the Jordanelle Subdivision. The first thing you see here is you can click on a map. Here you go back to the map server, and this will show you just the water rights in the Jordanelle Subdivision. It's going to take a minute, and like I say, there have been some technical issues tonight with our database, unfortunately. Let's see if it's going to do it, if it's going to be nice to us tonight. All right, there we go. So you can see there's quite a bit going on. This is just the Jordanelle Subdivision. Now, you can see there are some points of diversion outside of that. What that means is that some water rights have points of diversion in multiple locations and in multiple books. And so it could appear in different locations, okay? And so this is everything there. This can focus you on just the water rights that are in that subdivision. All right, I'm going to close this. All right, the other thing you can do, and this is probably the more important part, this is where you can track the progress of your water right throughout the adjudication. This will look a little bit different. There's two versions. There's a staff version and then there's a public version. And I need to stay logged in for this meeting, but it will look very similar to this, okay? And you will be able to track, enter a water right number, and I can't remember that water right number that we just looked at, but let's just say, oh, here's Heber City's water right. Okay, so from this, sorry, you can click on this and get to the water right database. You can also, by using the Control F, which is just a common Windows search way, you could search for a name. You know, I don't know, well, I see a Cooper. So there's one Cooper listed in here. And so you can search through it that way. And what you'll see as the adjudication progresses is you will see these dates begin to fill in. All right. Some of these you won't see because, again, you're seeing the staff version of this page. But the important things that you'll see is the notice to submit claim date and the let's see, the field review date and the SCR mail date and the PD review date. Well, let's see, that's an internal one. Okay, so there's a few, you'll be able to track that and you're going to see when we take it up and start looking at it.
On the notice to submit claim date, if you're with the irrigation company, will there be a date in there?
That one takes a little bit of time to get filled in, and so, you know, I'm just going to log out. I'm just going to do it. Because you guys, we need to show you exactly what it's going to look like on your side. So give me a minute here, and then I'll just log in again when we need to. Okay, so I'm Joe Public now, and I'm coming in here, and I'm going to look at my water right. This is what you're going to see. You can see it's a little different. All right, and this is important. I'm glad we did this. All right, so you can see the notice to submit claim date, and so we will fill that in as the adjudication commences. But the dates that we talked about already, those are the key dates. May 12th is when we're starting this. What was it? August 10th is the end of the 90-day period, and then 30 days after that if you ask me for an extension. Okay, but you'll see this begin to get filled out as we move through this. And you'll see at some point we're going to contact you and set up a field review, and then we're going to send you an SCR, and that is when this SCR prepared date will be filled in. Okay. At this immediate point, you can actually use this as a way to file a water user claim, and so you can see file claim right here, and you can click this, and it will actually walk you through what we call a wizard, and it will help you file a water user claim. Okay, so if you don't like the claim, if you're a water right holder and you don't like the claim that we send you at the notice to file claims, you want to prepare your own, you can do that here. If you have a water right that we just don't know about and you want to submit a water user claim, you can do that here. If you're not even listed here and you're one of these pre-statutory rights that have never come onto the records of the state engineer, you can file a water user claim right here. And so there's a lot of different ways you can interface with this to get a water user claim filed with our office. Okay? And throughout all of this, please contact us if you have any questions. We can help you throughout this entire process. I'll put that slide up that has our contact information on. I'll put that up at the very end, so that you can take a picture of it or document that again. And so that's for our people online too. Okay, so a lot of different ways to interface with that. All right, so I think that kind of covers the items I wanted to cover. At this point, I think we can go ahead and start taking some questions here. It's going to be really hard for the online people. Let me get that slide up, and then we're going to we'll go ahead and end the live stream so that it ends on that last little bit here. All right, what's it doing here? All right, very good. All right, so we're going to go down to the very end and go slideshow. Okay. All right, so that's how to contact us. So my own contact information is there. Nick Yider is the program manager for the adjudication section. He works very closely with me. Christy Butters is the program specialist that's assigned to this subdivision. She unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. Some of her staff members are here tonight, but you can contact her as well. And then of course you can use that email address at the bottom, waterrights_adjudication@utah.gov, and that comes directly to me, and either myself, I'll respond, or I'll forward that on to Christy or Nick for them to respond. All right, so I think at this point we can go ahead and cut the